Alright, welcome to the start of a new anime review series. This is one I had some interest in, but I figured though, why not watch it? It's only 12 episodes, why not get through it? This one's called She Professed Herself as Disciple of the Wise Man. And the thing also with this particular series in the manga, at a certain point, it's like, ooh, let's show off the fact this is basically the female lead. Let's show off completely naked in a lot of the manga. Yes, seriously. Frequent nudity scenes. So, the premise of this show, which, by the way, this show is made by, if I can find it here we go, Studio A Cat. Yes. Which I just recently got through a series that they worked on. As a matter of fact, there's a series airing right now that they're airing right now, which is Hero Without Class. By the way, not many shows I have watched within it. I have watched a little bit of the beginning of Transformers Energon. Yes, I think I watched like the first few episodes of that one. But for full shows, the first show I ever reviewed from this studio was I've somehow gotten stronger or improved my farming skills. And then it was the strongest magician in a demon lord's arm was a human. Beginning after the end, which I watched this year. I heard the reception for this one has been very mixed. I've heard one person describe this very butchered. I thought it was pretty interesting. Of course, Hero Class, obviously. And now we have this one, which aired 3 years ago. Yes, the premise is this. We have people playing this game known as Arc Earth Online. And, like, they're basically characters. You're thinking, like, wait, this sounds a little bit like Overlord. Kind of in a way it is. Oh, by the way, when the episode opens up, we have narration from the awesome Stephanie Young. And now, this is now my 20th series and I heard of it. And yeah, I was not expecting Stephanie Young at all. I was not expecting her. And of course, the premise of the game, we have people log into an actual online game. It's like a VR thing. And they basically, they have this war between people with swords and mages. Mages are losing. They form this kingdom. The kingdom's ruled by a guy called Solomon. Yes, Solomon. And if you're really curious who basically is voicing him, it's Brandon McInnes, who basically was Sir Night-Eye in My Hero Academia, Geen from Dr. Stone, and Fenrir from Black Clover. Yep. Yeah, so it's like he formed this country, and we have the 7 wise men. Despite the fact one is obviously looks like a woman. Yes. And by the way, the only people who speak in the first episode are Daboff, who, get this, he says, that the character himself basically is based upon 2 of the greatest sorcerers in fiction, that being Gandalf the Grey from Lord of the Rings and Dumbledore from Harry Potter. I should point out, though, those characters were created by British writers. Yes, one of whom happened to be a guy who served in World War I. The other is a woman who wrote those books in the 1990s. Well, most of it anyways. And so he's an old man. He also has basically runs into a woman named, when he's on his way to play, called Amelie, who's voiced by Kristen McGuire. Yeah, I was not expecting to hear her in the series either. You're like, really? Yeah. And so, how many series is now for Kristen McGuire? Excuse me, I think it's like 26, I think it is. No, it's not 26 yet. It's not that one. I'm trying to find it here. Hang on. It's not there. I think it might be the 27th. Where are you? Well, I know something was 20th. I don't know for sure. Let's see. I'm trying to find it here. Hang on. Here it is. Yeah, it's 27. Last one was actually Solo Leveling. Yep. And she's like this adventurer who appears in this episode. And then he goes to visit his home. Yes, his home. Which has two people in it. One is Marlena, who's voiced by... and I want to make sure I pronounce the name properly. Zenith Hanen. I think... Let's see. She is... Okay, she's of Vietnamese descent. Okay, so... Aside from this show, the shows I've heard her in was One Punch Man, ReZero, she's voiced of Plum Rouge, Hunter x Hunter, The Rising of the Shield Hero, Demon Slayer, Welcome Demon Skull, Aramacon, Yashi Princess Half Demon, Abakilian Science Rated Max Level, The Case Study of Vanitos, The Detective is Already Dead, Rest in Our World, That's Evergarden's of Slime, and that's it. Where she's basically a fairy, and we also have another guy here named Kairos, who's voiced by Jacob Browning. Okay, so... Then, like, oh, we're going to Floating Island. We're going to display this battle. Yeah, and by the way, this is kind of weird how these characters talk to each other. Well, in the case of Solomon and Gandalf, where they talk to each other and they're like real life friends. I have never. This you can kind of describe the scene in episode 1 for this as like, oh, it's basically like a recreation of the scene from episode 1 of Overlord. Except you actually is talking present day instead of just a random flashback. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, the 9 wise men just disappear. No one knows what happened to him. Solomon had basically been the king by himself. So then, after the whole disappearing thing, and then for the last 5 minutes of the first episode, this is really weird. I have never seen this before when it comes to this changing of stuff like this. So, our character wakes up as a girl. Yes, a girl. And then we proceed to go on a 5-minute montage with no dialogue. I would have thought, though, they would have characters speak. Yes, they just stop talking. Now, the thing is, I do not blame Crunchyroll for this. It is not their fault for the last 5 minutes. I blame Studio Cat for this. It is their fault for this happen, where we have some rams up happen, and then the episode just ends with our lead character saying, I am cute. Because it's a girl. By the way, we do see her rear end. Because also she's wearing the same outfit that she wore when she was a guy. And they say that apparently 30 years have passed by. And now the NPCs are active. Which I'm like, that sounds like Overlord. I'm not kidding about that. It feels like basically it's a partial retread of Overlord a little bit here, and then we meet Luminous, voiced by Michelle Rojos. Yes. Always great to hear her voice. I personally have not met her, but I've always really enjoyed her work as a voice actress. One of my personal favorites, I once basically sent her a tweet, and she actually liked it. By the way, it's actually the 17th series of her. She actually was just in By the Grace of the Gods. This year alone, basically, it's been 1, 2, 3. It's only the 4th series this year. Yes. I personally met her, but I've always really enjoyed her work. And anytime, basically, she comes across, I just had to sit down and watch because I just really enjoy her work. Yeah, her character is a character named Luminous. She's also one of the wise men, and I'm like, yeah, this is obviously a woman. I'm like, why wouldn't this character speak? This character never spoke in the first episode. Did not speak. I would have thought they would have, but nope. The wise men, exception of basically our main character, and Solomon, and like Meryl, there's like hardly any characters who speak in the first episode. And apparently she's been there for like 20 years, and they explained, there's no more floating islands now. Why? Oh yeah, the storage facility is so active, and then she goes home goes to her home, where Meryl thinks, it might be her master. Nope, it's basically this girl named Maria. Also, she has to create a cover story where she is a disciple of herself. Yes, calling herself Maria. Yes, so, and only the king and Lemurs basically know the truth. So after they meet with us here, and then we have some knights basically go out, like some countryside that has the ability of a monster attack, and then they're attacked by a giant chicken, which he then summons basically her. By the way, when she was a he was known as the one-man army because he had an army of like battle maids, all these knights. Here he summons the knights, slice the chicken up, then becomes like Devil's Grace, and then summons the beast, who acts like their version of Godzilla, blasts the ground, eventually beast taken away, the chicken's defeated. And it was like, oh cool. Oh, by the way, the elf here, this episode, I've never seen this before in anime. Because normally they don't have elves have an accent. But for some reason, I do not know why in the world this elf basically had this accent. For some weird reason, this elf has got a British accent. You're like, what? Why the heck would an elf, yes, an elf, have a British accent? I have no idea. It is, by far, it is so weird. Yeah, and everything's all fine. And they also mentioned in the episode, there's something that comes up in 1 year. What it is, don't know yet. So, we'll find out and see. But, interesting start for the show. I'm very interested, especially since basically some of my favorite voice actors in the show. But, there's one who I saw in the voice cast, I'm like, of course he's here. Of course he is. I'll discuss that later, okay? So yeah, that's particularly a particular view. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, notifications. Next episode of the Comic Corner. And then I'm going to watch Isekai Quartet. Okay, next view. Bye.